Okay, good evening. Thank you for persevering to the council meeting. This is the council meeting of September 11th, 2023. Thank you to both Council Donaldson and Council Gray for doing the territorial acknowledgement. With the agenda, we've got some pinks in terms of correspondence from regarding the 4696 Beckingham Road from Robert Chabot, Beth Bacon, Dave Stevens, Matt and Evelyn Loken, Denise Coors, Ryder Bateman, and Tamara Ballard, all in the pinks. As well, we would like to add to ratify the recommendations from the committee for the agricultural plan and for the DBP, and this will be done in section 13, in number 13. And with those additions, I'll accept a motion to amend the agenda and adopt it as moved. Moved by Councillor Gray, seconded by Councillor Schumacher. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. We have no presentations, but we do have public participation. You have 4 minutes, and if we could, could we have anybody who would like to speak to the tax exemptions first, and then if everybody could come at that time, and then we will deal with other matters.
Mayor,
Yep.
I would like to recuse myself as my husband sits on the board of one of the organizations that's under review for tax.
Okay, thank you. We'll come and get you afterwards.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gary Smurfett. I have 3 items to speak to, but I'll just speak to the tax exemptions first, and then I'll sit down. I want to support the Victoria Motorcycle Club's continuing to be a recipient of a permissive tax exemption. At this location, the Victoria Motorcycle Club provides an opportunity for youth to learn how to ride motorcycles safely in a confined area, and if they wish to compete in low-impact motorcycle events. My 2 grandsons did that, and it's really helped them to learn in a safe way, and I greatly appreciated this, and hopefully this opportunity will continue to be provided by the community. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak to the tax exemption question?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is David Warner. I live at 2007 Dugan Place in the Highlands. I'm the president and life member of the Victoria Motorcycle Club, and I just wanted to speak for consideration of the general tax exemption bylaw. The Victoria Motorcycle Club was initially founded in 1906 as part of the Victoria Automobile and Motorcycle Club. The VMC became its own entity in 1912. Formally constituted as a society in 1927 and registered under the BC Societies Act in 1947. They have been inducted into the Canadian Motorcycle Hall of Fame in 2010 and the Greater Victoria Sports Hall of Fame in 2019. From its inception, the club has held monthly general meetings using Robert's Rules of Order as format, and we still have the minutes of all those meetings. Since its beginning, the Victoria Motorcycle Club was founded has promoted the sport of motorcycling for all types and for all ages. As a club, we believe that riding is one of the few things left that is family-oriented, healthy, enjoyable, and isn't prohibitively expensive. As a result, as a mode of transportation, motorcycling has several advantages over automobiles, such as fuel efficiency, resulting in a lower carbon footprint, and the simple fact that motorcycles are easy to park in a car. For many years, the VMC has been a steward of the motorcycle club property of Metchosin. Preservation of green space on Vancouver Island is becoming a tough challenge as urban sprawl encroaches on all natural areas. The VMC has maintained the 175-acre plot in virtually the same natural state as it was purchased in 1967, I think it was, with the minimal trail clearing, much less than is required to create a park or campsite. At present, the VMC is actively working to develop new riding areas in other districts. Items to note: The VMC supported the District of Metchosin's Fire Department to host a regional fire training exercise on our property in 2022, with many departments attending from across all parts of Vancouver Island. Metchosin's SAR team is to hold a wilderness training exercise on our property this month on the 23rd, with future training dates to be considered. The VMC provides fundraising opportunities for both the Metchosin Fire Department Auxiliary and Boy Scouts troops in running food concession stands and donating the proceeds from 50/50s to them when we have at selected events. In 2023, VMC made charitable donations to the Vancouver Island Ride for Life to support prostate cancer, BC Children's Hospital Foundation and BC Cancer Foundation Vancouver Island chapter, with funds raised from events held on our property. The VMC follows a good neighbor policy by protecting our forest property from fire risks during extended drought periods by enacting partial and or full property closures, which we had to do this year when no riding is allowed. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you. Anybody else for public participation, particularly about the tax exemptions? Seeing no one, I was wondering, could you go on to Councillor Donald? Thank you.
Other
There will be other comments, but I just want Councillor Donaldson in the room for that as well.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
She's in the mayor's office.
It's hide and seek.
Did you find it?
He's with the
Okay, with that, we've got everybody else. Would anybody else like to speak for public participation? You have 4 minutes. Please state your name and your street.
Patty Whitehouse, Rocky Point Road. Now, I do understand how much council has to deal with. I understand that you are juggling with both feet, both hands and your noses, and that there are things that you forget as a result. But yes, you have seen the Dogson Metchosin Working Group recommendations regarding signage before and other things. The previous council accepted all of our recommendations. This council confirmed them, subsequently asked the Dogs and Metchosin Working Group to start the education campaign. That was one of the recommendations. Has received more than one correspondence from the Dogs and Metchosin Working Group regarding the signage and the importance of getting started on it. And council is waiting for a return of the animal control bylaw amended based on recommendations from the Dogs and Metchosin Working Group. So yes, you know about it, you've forgotten, I understand, but it really is important. There is no point in my us putting the effort into the education campaign if the signage isn't there to support it. Thank you.
Thank you. One thing that I forgot.
Because, as we know, as time goes on very soon, there will be more and more people coming to Metchosin, using our recreational areas, who don't read the news and need to know that the signage is recreational infrastructure likely covered under some of our grants, including the community infrastructure grant. Growing Communities grant. So please, don't lose sight of that. It's going to be important for Metchosin.
Okay, thank you. One thing that I remembered, Ms. Whitehouse's prompting is that we had Bonnie Ferris design some of the signs, so that's available and already designed and ready to go. I forgot about that, so thank you.
Mayor, little idea here what Ms. Whitehouse is saying, and I can take this on and connect with the White House staff and move this along.
Okay, great, thank you. Anybody else for public participation? Go ahead.
So, Alison Duke, Darien Place. This is about the Center Mountain Stormwater Management Plan. I was surprised to see the District of Metchosin engineer submitted an update to Council about the Stormwater Management Plan, saying that MIASC and PTASC have submitted their comments, and the engineer recommends approving the Stormwater Management Plan. The update doesn't mention whether the Agriculture Advisory Committee has submitted its comments. However, the major stormwater infrastructure referral policy states that the Agriculture Advisory Committee must be given the opportunity to review and provide comments to district staff on the stormwater management plans. So I made a presentation to the Agriculture Advisory Committee last week about stormwater in Bilston Creek watershed. I was given to understand that the committee had not received a copy of the most recent revision of the stormwater management plan that the district's engineer refers to in his August 31 memorandum. I'm assuming that's the most recent version. And this is important because it looks like there's been a significant change between the first version and the most recent version of the stormwater management plan. As the district engineer points out, and we have the same problem as Gary has pointed out, that we have had a hard time getting actual copies or, reliable information about the different versions. But as the engineer points out, the first version of the stormwater management plan only discussed pollution control and green infrastructure techniques that could, underline, be used to achieve the goals. Whereas the latest version of the stormwater management plan contains a new section, which again I haven't seen, but he refers to it, that commits to the use of green stormwater infrastructure that will be incorporated. And they commit to following the Green Stormwater Infrastructure Common Design Guidelines for the Capital Region, which in my view is a very good step in the right direction. Because the earlier version made very little mention of water quality. Really, if you look at that April 27th version, there's one or two sort of mentions of it. So the Bilston Watershed Habitat Protection Association has not been provided a copy of the most recent version, and we've been denied access to the report by Colquitt's Engineering, so we can't comment on any of those details, but I do have some questions. So, was the Agriculture Advisory Select Committee provided with a copy of the most recent revision of the Stormwater Management Plan? And if so, have they provided their comments on the most recent version to the district staff? Which I think is important before it's approved. So that raises the question of whether MIASC and PTASC were provided a copy of the most recent revision of the Stormwater Management Plan for consideration before they provided their comments. I'm not sure what the timing was there. But in any case, if none of those things, or if even one of those things was not done, then it raises the question about whether there's been compliance with the major stormwater infrastructure referral policy. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor Dibble?
Go ahead.
Sorry, very quickly, I can confirm that both PTASC and MIASC, the chairs, have received a policy, the stormwater plan, the most recent one. I don't know if the Ag Committee has received it. And I'm from Councillor Donaldson's nod, I don't believe that's the case, because the council liaisons have also received the plan as well.
Councillor Donaldson, can you confirm?
It came up at our last meeting, and it's not on our agenda.
Okay.
No, they haven't even done a tour. There's been no direction for them to actually do it, so they're asking me. So,
Okay.
So now I'm trying to get them organized to actually do a tour of the buffer lands at least, but we've not seen any requests to.
Okay, so we'll make sure that they get the plan
Yeah.
according to our plan. Okay, thank you.
Johnny Callahan, Cliff Drive. First of all, and I'm speaking as the co-editor of the Muse, first of all, I want to thank you again for the honour you gave us yesterday as Citizen of the Year. That was a fantastic honour, I really appreciate it. But secondly, to draw it to your attention, or remind you if you already knew it, in each edition of the Muse there is a thing from your staff, a council schedule and an update. And that's an opportunity if you have something particular you want to remind the public about, some particular meeting you want them to attend. Those staff don't necessarily attend these meetings and won't necessarily know what you believe is a really important meeting to attend. So there's an opportunity to go through staff. The second one we also put in, we go through our whole paper and clean out the important meetings and put those in one little section towards the end of the paper, important dates for you to attend. And from informal feedback from the readers, I gather that is, just about everybody reads that. We don't read everything we write, but they do read that. So you could also, in addition to going through staff, if you have something that you really think is an important thing that people should attend, then you can just drop me a line and I'll make sure it gets in there. And we do try very hard to get our edition out before the start of the month, so you've got the whole month ahead of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else for public participation for the council meeting?
So Lisa Luke, 900 Neff Road. Mayor Little and council. Can't hear? I believe that there is still time to recall the motion from the previous planning committee meeting to advance the subdivision application for Beckingham Road. I would urge you to do so. In the intervening weeks, many questions which were not sufficiently addressed by the applicant or in the district staff's report have resurfaced. There has been much discussion about whether the committee acted hastily and without due diligence. I, for one, agree with the mayor's perspective about taking enough time for sober second thoughts. But I also understand that sometimes committee members may feel that the process can be followed and the necessary answers will be forthcoming as all of the steps unfold. In this instance, however, I would caution the committee that this particular application is too important to wait on the process to reveal the best way forward. This may prove to be a watershed decision, and as such, it needs careful scrutiny and an appropriate time frame. Your decision on this matter will definitely impact all future development proposals, and it warrants your focus and commitment to the residents of Metchosin. Not until every one of you is satisfied that you have answered every question, considered all of the possibilities that come to mind, and are prepared to defend your choice with confidence and conviction. Should you move this application ahead, please don't rush to a precedent that will return to haunt you later. Now, due diligence is a process unto itself. It is a constantly evolving strategy to find the best information available at the time, to make a comprehensive decision based on the known variables, and it allows for change with new insight and understanding. At no time should the process be set in stone, and as so many outcomes simply produce more unknowns. In Metchosin's case, we seem to have a problem with the flow of information between staff, the CAO, and the members of council or committee. This all-important dialogue, facilitated in clear and constant communication between staff and councillors, is not happening in a timely manner. And this needs to change, and quickly, please. Thank you for listening.
Barb Sawatsky, 4713 Kabir Road. I would also like to revisit to the August 12th vote for amenity rezoning regarding the above proposed development, and that of course is Beckingham Road. Councillor Donaldson expressed rightful concern that giving consideration to this amendment would open up Metchosin's official community plan. Metchosin owes nothing to any developer. Lita Homes was aware of the terms of our OCP when they purchased the Beckingham Road property. Being nice and making promises are part of the game. The carrots of Parkland and City Water are tempting, but deeper implications include the advantageous precedent for future developers. Further, once demands are met, there is nothing stopping Lita Homes from selling the entire project to another developer who could come to council requesting even more lots. How much staff time are you willing to give to proposals which do not comply with our OCP? Currently, every house built on this property is allowed to have a suite. 14 houses with suites equal 28 dwellings. 24 houses could legally become a subdivision of 48. You are all elected under trust, so stay strong and stick to your election promises. It's up to you to stick your collective fingers in the dike to stop our OCP from being breached. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak at the meeting?
Kim Hill, 1070 Brookview Drive. Again, speaking in regards to Beckingham, thank you for the opportunity here. Yes, concerning the Beckingham land speculation that's currently in play, my concerns are that this really is a conflict and what appears to be a facilitation of conflict with our OCP. Back to basics, and I spoke about this in the last earlier this year. The OCP is quite clear in regards to the rules here. The number of lots to be created at that location is dependent on the well services being sustainable for each lot to a maximum of 14, no more than that, quite possibly less. And also, as usual, riparian setbacks, road allowances, etc. also may vary the number of allowed lots. The OCP, the lay of the land there, the unique lay of the land there, the unique water situation, these all are well known. They were well known beforehand by the developer. The likely yield on that property is probably about 6 to 9 lots. The speculator or the developer is obviously not satisfied with this modest gain. Why the heck are we encouraging, I'm putting out the hope for 24 lots? It's beyond comprehension, or beyond reasonable. It's beyond what I expect from Metchosin. Anyways, back to basics. How many wells are possible up there? Well, who knows? If Metchosin says the number of lots depends on this factor, Metchosin needs to require a proper, independent report about the matter, and that the usual would include the developer and or the district to install a test well first and get the current rates of production of the neighborhood first. And then you build in stipulations that guarantee that the new wells won't impact existing wells. Now, contrary to some fear-mongering going around, domestic wells are a relatively low impact on the aquifer. What they draw out mostly goes right back in. As long as you don't have sewers, you've got septic fields, it goes back in to provide for recharge. The loss and depletion in aquifer 606 is not from domestic usage. It's from the careless development and the small lots, the loss of infiltration, the pavement mainly north of here. And that the solution to that is the integrated watershed management plan that Councillor Gray referred to earlier. But later for that. Meanwhile, bringing in pipe water, I feel it's just a red herring. It's great for the developer short term. For the taxpayer, it's just another long-term expense, and another piece of infrastructure that we've got to take care of. For fire protection, fire ponds. That's why we have 10 trucks. You know, you put in the ponds. Ponds are great for infiltration and recharge of the groundwater too. You know, 24 lots versus 8. It's not just the infrastructure with the pipes. You've got policing, you've got the roads, you've got schools, And it's not just 24 lots, it's, Barb mentioned, we've got secondary suites in there. Another thing about people who are on wells, it tends to bring about a sense of stewardship. When you are dependent on well water, you become a parent of an important truth, that water is valuable and it deserves your personal protection. So, I strongly object to a private interest group, their gain causing long-term costs to the public here. I fear that we are being duped. I urge you to keep your wits about you. Long live the OCP.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak at public participation this evening?
Hello, Lisa Gee, Kangaroo Road. I would also like to request that you review the vote from August. I also have concerns about this moving forward. Most importantly, that there's a number of questions that haven't been properly addressed yet. And I don't want to take a lot of time. I know it's gotten very late, but the hydrology report seems very questionable. The impact on wildlife during construction and afterwards. The impact of road widening, who's going to pay for it, or what happens to the other properties. Is there going to be land appropriation for that? There's so many different questions there that haven't been answered yet before it even moves on to a public hearing. So I would ask the same as the other speakers that you do review this, take more time to ask the questions. And in terms of support, I've only seen very minimal support, 2 letters of support. One is because of the piped water, which I'm also in support of. I think the piped water is really important, but not to gain 24 lots out of it. And the other letter of support was from a realtor, so the realtor might be able to answer the question as to how much do the lots gain in value by having piped water, or how much do they actually decrease in value by having well water that has no certainty of water in the future. So that might be a good person to speak to. So yeah, my overall request is that you look at it again. And if you will indulge me for a quick second, I would also really like to compliment the councillors and all the volunteers from yesterday. Metchosin Day was wonderful. It brought back a real feeling of community, which in these times where things have been rather negative, it was really nice to experience. So I thank you all. I thank all the volunteers. That was really fantastic. And two more quick points. I see that it looks like you are moving towards approving 5079 William Head Road. I think that's a great idea. It seems like a really simple ask, so I hope that you do go ahead and approve that. And I'm also really happy that you're continuing to work with the Working Dog Group again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very little.
Yes,
I'd
go
like
ahead.
to make a motion, I'd like to make a motion that we extend this meeting past 10 p.m.
Okay, moved by Councillor Schumacher to extend the meeting past 10 p.m. and second by Councillor Donaldson. All in favor? Opposed? You're opposed? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, there was somebody else here that wanted to speak.
F. Bacon, Metchosin resident. I have 2 letters into you. I've been asked if I would please read the second one because it's a pink and people maybe haven't read it yet. And the first one I'll just summarize because it came in earlier. And I've read the other letters to council on the Beckingham project, and I see a lot of agreement. How the letters differ is in attention to details. My position remains that 20 lots is maximum because the calculations that arrived at 20 are already flawed. 24 is egregious. I have 2 slogans that will sum up everything. 20 is plenty, and bone density is good, bonus density is bad. The amenity development with piped water is to the advantage of the applicant. Bonus density is superfluous and setting a precedent that we will regret. Beckingham is the first big subdivision for this council. Let's take the time to get it right. We don't have all the relevant information in order to negotiate a fair deal. We are not ready to go to a public hearing. In my opinion, it would not be overly time-consuming or expensive for the district to get independent opinions or estimates on the following. 1, the cost of bringing pipe water down Kangaroo to Beckingham. We should find out that ourselves, not have secondhand information. 2, the state of Aquifer 606 and the wells in the Beckingham neighborhood. 3, whether the district has the authority to impose a decision that there should be no new wells in this area. 4, a comparison in selling price for lots with or without pipe water. 5, the comparative saleability of lots with or without piped water. 6, the difference in insurance costs for houses where there is or not fire hydrants. And we really want to know the details of the July 2021 subdivision application. Was it accepted? Was it rejected? And if so, why? Was it withdrawn? But, you know, we have a new staff and new council, and I think it's important to know the history. I've put in an FOI, but it could take a month to get that information, but I'm sure you can get the information. What about that earlier subdivision application? I understand it was for like 14 lots, and maybe they couldn't find water, maybe they got rejected, I don't know. But I think you should know before you go into this deal. So here's my letter that I was asked to read. I hope you'll indulge me. I hope you will stop this train wreck. A very positive-looking amenity development could go all wrong if council doesn't protect us. We should not be taking the important step of going to a costly and divisive public hearing on the strength of a 3-2 vote. The time pressure you feel to move forward is nothing compared with what could go wrong if you rely on good intentions and reputation rather than what we can control and enforce. It seems obvious to me that awarding bonus density will be a precedent that you will regret, that we will regret. We have more large properties that are subject to development. The way I read the OCP, we're at risk of having all of Metchosin chopped up into 5 and 10 acre lots. I don't see a provision for keeping 30, 40, 50, or 100 acre parcels intact. You're going to have to do something creative. I think council should be proactive and do some rezoning. In view of climate change, water resources, loss of habitat, and the destruction of landscape and loss of biodiversity at our borders. I remember when Leader Group attended a meeting with the former council, the first thing the chair of the planning committee, Kiera Kahakawila, said was, "You'll have to provide pipe water." What did she know? That should be given given for all new development on Aquifer 606. That's the cost of doing business. There's no obligation to give bonus density for doing what's necessary. Aquifer 606 can't take any more. It's oversubscribed. Now, as I hear, that's not my information, that's from other people who live in the area and have wells that run dry and they have to conserve. Or a lot of people in that area are buying water in the summer. Now, for what you should do with the I'm almost done. For now, what you should do with the subdivision application that's in front of you is please reconsider the vote for proceeding with a public hearing and have staff come back with more information, better options, and enforceable guarantees. Have you considered these variables? 1, how would we vote if we knew who the beneficial owners of the property are? The owners are a numbered company. And they signed a partnership agreement 2 months before acquiring this property, and they won't tell us, or they won't tell me, who the partners are. How are we protected with the change of owners? Is there anything to say the cluster housing, that is one house on each 2 acre lot as I understand it, could not end up being multifamily units? Lita Homes is developing or building townhomes in Laurel Bay, and it looks like what they're making on Happy Valley Road is multifamily units. They don't just do custom homes. Are you considering that the current push to have affordable housing, this is scary, might override Metchosin's input and control? Have you checked to see if the district has the authority to deny more wells on Aquifer 606? That would be really interesting. I hope you will look at the Beckingham subdivision through a critical lens and give the public a deal we can be confident in. We're not asking for anything extraordinary. 40% green space, no increase in density, piped water. And I think the property could be sold at a profit without doing any improvements if this approval went with the land. One last couple sentences.
Okay, quick.
Where I see, I think this is a suggestion going forward, where I see room for the district to help with the cost is on the trails, the road improvement, and the water services. I know we don't have surplus money, but what would the district look into finding grant money for one or more of those offerings? Maybe we can help in that way to sweeten the deal. And I hope you persevere until you get this right, and I hope the applicant will see the benefit of having the public hearing go mostly in their favor. And I don't know if you're aware, but some Metchosin residents don't approve of cluster housing. I think it's a great idea, but they're going to run into that at the public hearing as well.
Thank you. Is there anybody else for public participation for this evening?
Okay. Thanks, Mayor and Council. It's Chris Moore, 4545 William Head Road, and I'm speaking tonight now on behalf of as president of the Association for the Protection of Rural Metchosin, and I've done my best. There's quite a bit of redundancy we're hearing tonight to keep this as brief as possible, but I would like to speak, if I may. I'll be under 4 minutes in 2 parts. The first part are a few brief notes from 2 members of our resource group, and this is all, of course, with respect to Beckingham. They've actually cited Gary Smurfett as he has indicated that the actual number of allowable 2-hectare lots under current zoning is 17 to 19, with the lower number most likely 17, most likely under proper environmental assessments. As a result, from our resource folks, Council should stop treating it as 20 and indicating the request is only an increase of 4 to 24. It is actually more like 7 more, which is an unsettling increase in density. They pose a question: can the property in question handle the development of even 20 homes on less than 2 hectares, each with respect to septic fields? The property is primarily wetlands, as we know, which raises the concern as to whether there would be potential for contamination of those wetlands or wetlands water with that level of building density. Overall, the estimated costs and environmental impacts need to have more detail and confirmation by qualified professionals. Going forward, what has been provided to date substantially raises the risk that the development will run into unforeseen problems, and things like city water, proper hydrology, et cetera, may end up being issues for Metchosin, like the similarly the vague land swap of years ago. Just because it sounds like a good thing, it doesn't mean necessarily that it will end up that way if you don't tighten up the estimates and the details. Last bit from the resource folks is the cluster of potentially 20 new houses at whatever size fit into the neighborhood. Would the increase of up to 200 more people in that area, houses plus secondary suites, negatively impact the infrastructure, i.e. the road, and quality and enjoyment of the property for current residents? Okay, second bit, if I may. I mentioned that I'm speaking tonight on behalf of the membership of the APRM, and you might ask yourself, well, to what extent precisely? As you folks know, we distribute our version of council notes to all our members, usually well in advance of a subsequent council meeting. It's rare, but this time it was not possible to put those out until late last Friday. As a consequence, the next day, Saturday, September 9, 2 days ago, we received 24 communications, phone calls or emails from our members in a 12-hour period. We've been able to connect with 17 of these on Saturday and 4 more yesterday, leaving only 3 as I speak to get back to. All the communications related to the Beckingham proposal. Curiously, because we know everybody's address, only 2 of these parties lived in close proximity to Beckingham, and that was on Kangaroo Road in both cases. The message we received is consistent with what you've heard tonight during this public participation. And the bottom line, it appears that there remains confusion on the people that contacted us on to some of the development proposal details and some inconsistency they believe to have observed in the committee's previous voting results. Please note that this is your first significant land use proposal to come before you during your term, and your preparation and due process will therefore be judged on this one, and we'd like to see you win. Last bit, your residents are clearly asking that you do the right thing by them, and it starts with improved fact-finding and clarity before moving forward. Tonight we ask you, as our council, to hear and respect that request. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Anybody else wish to speak at public participation? Ms. Miller, could I have another pen, please? I've run out. Thank you. Go ahead.
Sarah at Metchosin Road. I've just been sort of watching this Buckingham Road stuff going for a while. Even as a person who obviously cares a lot about housing, this is not the kind of housing I really want to see at all. This is going to be mini mansions. I imagine this is wealthy people homes. These are going to be quite expensive places. I don't think these are the kind of people who need secondary suites, or if they do, it's for their housekeeper or whatever. It's that Oak Bay with sheep thing we kind of talk about. That said, it makes no difference to me whether there's 20 of them or there's 24 of them. If we get good stuff out of it, if we can negotiate stuff out of it that helps this community, I'd rather we got something out of it. So that's my piece on that.
Thank you. Does anybody else wish to speak at public participation? Seeing none, we're going to move on in the council agenda. Moving to adoption of the minutes. So I'm on page 5 of the council agenda. This is the council meeting from August 14th. Could I have a motion to adopt the minutes? Moved by Councillor Schumacher, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. All in favor? Opposed?
No, I'm in favor. Just want to make a comment.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is the August 14 meeting. Yeah, I want to correct a misunderstanding and apologize to Colwood Councillor Kim Jordison and IACTI for my mistaken words at our last council meeting. It was I who phoned Councillor Jordison on August 13, 2023, not the other way around. She had asked me to call her the day before to discuss our agenda item related to IACTI, and so I did call her. Her message to me on the phone was unequivocal. She said that IACTI was ready to take on the role as the new provincially mandated disability committee. Contrary to my words, Councillor Jordison did not question the ability of IACTI to manage its money. She told me of meetings involving Mayor Little and herself where new financial management rules and the impact of changes in committee responsibilities had to be ironed out. She indicated that this took some time, but the changes were ultimately accepted in principle. I didn't express that properly in my comments during last council meeting. Again, I unreservedly apologize to Councillor Jordison, IACTI, Mayor, and this council for my mistaken words.
Okay. Thank you for that apology. Is there any other concerns or comments regarding the August 14th minutes? Seeing none? I've forgotten. Have we got a mover and a seconder? Yes, we do.
Myself.
Okay. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Moving now to the two special council meetings, August 18th and August 31st. Councillor Schumacher, I could take them both unless you want them split.
No, I'm happy to move August 18th and August 31st special council meetings for adoption.
Moved by Councillor Schumacher and seconded by Councillor Epp. Concerns? Comments? Not call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Moving to the mayor's report. That's on page 19 of your council agenda. First of all, we have a Rising report. Just wanted to note that Kathleen Zimmerman and Barry McLean have been appointed to the Peninsula and Area Agricultural Commission. That was recommendations from the Metchosin Council. And we also have I just wanted to note there was some correspondence on Facebook and some questions regarding a prisoner at William Head Institution. And I just wanted to state that I've been assured that the offender has not been in the community unescorted. If he would have left the property, it would have constituted an escape, and notifications would have been issued along with a warrant for apprehension. The offender recently applied for escorted temporary absences from William Head Institution that were denied by the Parole Board of Canada. And then furthermore, on my mayor's update from September 6th, this is on page 19, I just wanted to mention that I have been attending all of the Minister of Emergency Management and Climate Readiness briefings that are put on by Ministers Bronwyn Ma and Municipal Affairs Minister Ann Kang. That's been going on all summer. I've communicated those to the fire chief while she's been deployed, while she's been here. We've had active discussions back and forth, and this is for your information. Secondly, we did have a volunteer appreciation night on August 24th. It was to a resounding success. The band was absolutely terrific. Kathleen Sutherland counted up to 200 people there, and I think that was a jolly good start to thank our volunteers of the committee. My ask is that council consider supporting 2 more concerts for July and August of 2024 to recognize the volunteers of Metchosin and increase the volunteer appreciation budget allocation to $1,400. That is my ask to council, given the resounding success of the volunteer appreciation night. What say ye?
It was a great idea, and I think it went off incredibly well. Yeah, excellent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Okay, would you like to propose a motion? I will propose the motion, how's that? That council consider supporting 2 concerts for 2024, one for July, one for August, to recognize the volunteers of Metchosin and increase the volunteer appreciation budget by double, which would be from $700 to $1,400.
I'll second.
Okay, second for discussion. Anybody else wish to comment on this?
The one thing I might suggest in terms of the concerts is we look at doing them at maybe different times. So we could try one later. We could try one, say, at 5:30, so it actually is a picnic dinner.
Okay.
So I did bring a picnic dinner that night, but my spouse noticed that no one was eating.
Okay.
So I didn't get to eat mine. But.
Okay.
And one other thing too is I do feel like these events, the best beneficiaries are the children of the volunteers. So if we have it earlier, the kids can run wild for a while. So.
Okay, great suggestion. Anybody else? Councillor Gray.
Yeah, I thought it went off very well. There's so many great volunteers in our community, and it was nice to be part of that celebration. Next year, it would be nice if the volunteer firefighters also had the evening off and were more, part of appreciating them.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be nice. And then the other thing, it's just really a question. I don't know if we can change a budget item here tonight, but we can put it in prepare that in future. I don't know if we can change the budget. But through the chair, I could ask Mr. Minsky about that.
Okay, and Councillor Donaldson before Ms. Tarnowski. Go ahead.
We aren't proposing to have another concert this year. It will be for next year, and budget talks will be starting in probably early November.
Mm-hmm.
So I certainly do support that. Something that we can plan and talk about further.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, great. Well, with that, I'll call the motion. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Great. And then lastly, I'm surprised that Council Epp didn't allude to this in her report. We did have the Hans Helgeson Elementary School crosswalk celebration. It was attended by grandparents, parents, council, RGMP, members of the ICBC, and others, some children. And it was a great celebration. And I'd like to congratulate council, especially Councillor Epp, on this initiative. We have the crosswalk and the crossing guards. The parents have been asking this for up to 2 decades. And so thank you. And this is a report for information. Did you want to say anything else?
Oh, I did actually have it down, but I think, trying to get through the meeting in such a hurry. I realized I adjourned and completely forgot about it. So, but I knew you had it in your mayor's update, so I thought, well, we're going to have it covered. So, it is very exciting to have it, see it up and running.
Okay. Okay. With that, we'll move on to the reports for action on page 21 of 28, 21 to 28. This is the request for a development variance at 5097 William Head Road.
Mayor Little.
Go ahead.
I would like to move that we issue development variance permit 2303, and I'll just make a brief comment if there's a second.
Okay. This is moved by Councillor Schumacher, seconded by Councillor Gray. Go ahead.
I will recall that the council did do a site visit to this particular property, hosted by Martin and Agnes, and we had a look at the facility. Essentially, it is 60 centimeters too close to the property line. They're extending an existing building. I want to make use of the foundation and the existing wall. There will be no plumbing that is in this building. To me, it's very suitable, and for the variance being requested here.
Okay.
Happy to support it.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak to it? Councillor Gray.
Sure, just say that when we took a look at it, we could see there was no bother for the neighbors and the neighbors' housing or buildings. There didn't seem to be any environmental questions related to the issue. And it was, as Councillor Schumacher has noted, is a minimal change, but saving on construction debris and other and construction costs, I expect, but construction debris particularly. So I'll be supporting the motion.
Okay. Councillor Donaldson.
Yeah, I agree. It's non-interference to anyone. It's a good placing for it, whoever thought about it initially, and expanding it for their purposes, for family and for their music studio, I think is what he was referring to a fair bit too. So no, it certainly fits with within the envelope that we have within our OCP. This is why we have these guidelines, and it's a very minor adjustment.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else wish to speak? If not, I'll call the question. On the motion is option number 1, to issue the development variance permit 2303. Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Motion is carried. Thank you. We're moving on to the reports for information on page 29. This is a report from our engineer, our contract engineer. This is to receive for information. Councillor Donaldson and Councillor Schumacher, do you wish to speak to this item?
I do, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. First of all, I do want to thank Mr. Hurley for his update on the work he's done on the CME stormwater, Central Mountain Estates stormwater system. And I also want to pass on my thanks to members of MEASC and PTASC who have provided comments to earlier versions of the plan, as Mr. Hurley mentions. Now, one of the things that Mr. Hurley points out is that from version 1 to version 3 of the stormwater report, I'm going to call it the SWIM report, Stormwater Management Report, SWIM report, there's been more clarity in the level of commitment to environmental standards around a vital aspect of the system, and that's water quality. And in the context of stormwater management, that essentially means how a system is going to deal with rainwater that carries hydrocarbons, garbage, soil, dirt, dog poo, and other contaminants that will be washed down by the rain. And of course here, it's going to be washed down into the detention pond of Metchosin, which is in Metchosin, the bufferland. And of course, that water eventually finds its way into Metchosin Creek, Bilston Creek, and eventually into Wade's Lagoon. Okay, so I would say yes, we have some confirmation on action around water quality in this third version, which was sent to us on August 25th. But I'm troubled that it has taken 3 versions to get to this point. And I also wonder what more can and should be done and to be confirmed in terms of managing water quality. That is, to me, that is one of the vital aspects of the system. So, and one thing, Mr. Hurley mentions that there is bioswales, the mention of bioswales in the stormwater plan in this version, but I have to point out there's no information on the number, the design, and the location and size of those bioswales. And key thing here, it is mentioned in the last section of the SWIM plan, the current version. And I'm sorry to be skeptical about this, but it strikes me as it is a Lego brick that has been attached to a piece of something that's already been built. In the read that I was able to do, I don't see the information on the bioswales integrated through the rest of the report. It just appears to be tagged on to the end. And again, it coming this late in the process, it leaves me with questions. So the thing that strikes me is I feel there's both a need to provide clarity to all parties about the higher environmental and operating standards that the District of Metchosin expects the system to be built to. And what I'm worried is we're going to give permission and there will be confusion as to what permission we've given. And so I would propose 2 steps here. I would like us to engage our consulting engineer, Colquitz, who we've hired, to provide advice as to what would constitute best practices around water quality specific to the CME system. And it's going to be very different with CME. One of the key characteristics of this area is the anticipation of infiltration into the ground from stormwater is virtually nil. And that's because of the amount of hard surface and also the rocky terrain that this residential development is going to be built on. So it's essentially all coming to the stormwater detention pond. Okay, so that's the first thing, is to request information from Colquitz around water quality. And second is that we clearly communicate to CME, the developers, their engineers, and the City of Langford are desires for a system that incorporates advanced environmental protection measures, and that we require this before formal approval is given of a stormwater management plan. And toward that, I have drafted a resolution. And I hate to drop this on council right now. I apologize because it's late. I'm going to give that to you. Excuse me. There may be a typo or two in here, but I would like to move the following. The council further engage Colquitt's Engineering to seek its advice on best management practices in terms of stormwater quality and other related aspects specific to the stormwater management system at the Central Mountain Estates. Second, that council directs staff to confirm with CME and their engineers and the City of Langford through a letter that the CME stormwater system must incorporate advanced water quality measures and best management practices into the overall system in terms of water quality. Finally, the third part of this resolution or motion, that CME be informed that its stormwater management plan will not be approved per Section 6B of Section 219 Covenant and Easement, and it will not be approved until the District of Metchosin has written assurances on the processes and practices that will be implemented to ensure water quality protection, as well as clarity on post-construction management, maintenance practices, and other vital matters that would constitute a comprehensive stormwater management plan. So, in short, what I'm asking is that we provide clarity to the developers that we're looking for a complete stormwater management plan with clarity on what we will see there, not what is recommended. And I just use that word recommended because the second version of the plan itself made recommendations around bioswales and a recommendation around the use of oil and grit separators. So those are two water quality measures. But a recommendation left without verification, just you're left to goodwill as to whether it will actually be implemented. So now what I believe is that this will actually help Mr. Hurley. It will give him the clout, I guess, if you will, from council and clarity as to what we expect. I cannot believe we are expecting anything but high environmental standards from the detention pond. Sorry, from the stormwater system that finds its way into the detention pond. So I make that motion. I don't know if I have a second.
I'll second.
Moved by Councillor Schumacher, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. Discussion. Do you wish to motivate on that more?
I think I've spoken enough.
Okay, Councillor Donaldson.
No, I think that's quite conclusive. Me too.
Okay. I have a question. Oh, go ahead, and I'll ask my question.
So I haven't read the latest report that we've been provided to council and to the chairs of MEASC and PTASC. But so I'm going to speak in support of what you've written here, Councillor Schumacher. But I just wanted to mention that I'm pleased to see that things are moving in the direction that most of us have talked about in the past. So there's a positive thing going on here. What's I think a little bit confusing is the notion of what is a stormwater management plan. And so whereas I'm interpreting Mr. Hurley's notes, but he's saying, look, the stormwater management plan is the overview piece, and then we've got to do the detail work, and we need to push our agenda on the details, which we've written about, and PTASC and MEASC have at least commented on some of those points, and we've also heard from the public. So I think it's in good shape, and I appreciate what you're doing is just giving some more strength to the position that we have. And maybe the other comment I would make is, just so we don't miss it, I'm reading here, Langford agreed they would produce a memorandum of understanding about the future operations and management. So that's good news because we're looking forward to that. We haven't received the agreement yet, but at least that's happening. So my only question then about the motion specifically would be advanced water quality measures. And I see that in the previous reports, they're talking about grit separators and sort of seeming to be mechanical types of approach. And I wonder if these advanced water quality measures, we don't want to knock out the green stormwater infrastructure that we've been talking about. So I just wonder if the wording is ideal for that, or we don't want to drive it away from the green approach, I don't think.
Councillor Schumacher?
I would agree. I mean, I'm searching for terminology, and I mean, I did have a chance to speak with Mr. Hurley, I think last week. He did mention that the use of bioswales I mean, it's not a new idea, but it would be considered, a step toward an advanced system. So that is what I'm looking for. The one thing, of course, unlike water treatment, stormwater doesn't really go through a treatment plant. You filter it, you let it settle, so it's really minimal. But again, the use of bioswales, oil and grit separators, they can help. But I don't know what else is there, but Colquitts will have an idea of this. So.
Okay, go ahead.
So I just offer that with that understanding, I'm happy to support it. And it's just that conversation with Mr. Herbert.
Correct.
Okay. Go ahead.
Sorry, and the one thing I will add here is, again, the Section 219 covenant allowing for the stormwater detention pond became known in December. The owners of Lot D, who have the ability to put that there, they're using the covenant. They're making the most of it. And we have rights, or we have obligations as the owner of that land through that covenant, but we also have rights as well. And this is what I'm asking us to do, is to take up and make the most of the obligations that the developers have to us. So.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'll also speak in favor of the motion. One thing that I'm very pleased to see the information on quality being addressed finally. I'm just wondering if we can get back to the quantity question. Are you comfortable with the quantitative analysis of the flow? Because what it analyzes is not flow, but it measures the amount of water up and down in the detention pond. Are you comfortable with that assessment, or should we have? I'm asking both you and Councillor Donaldson. Are you comfortable with that, or there should be a different way to measure, to quantify that flow?
That I cannot answer. I will. I have seen from the earlier versions that Colquitts did comment on that, and through those comments, the developer did make changes, which was actually to increase the expected flow, as I recall. But it wasn't. It was kind of little scenarios where the increases came. So I'm happy to go with their advice. What again triggered me to this and to the risks I believe we face if we don't clarify is, again, all the water quality things were only recommended. They weren't, the plan did not say they were going to be in the system. There was no confirmation of that.
So would you be interested in amending this to include up-to-date methods for quantifying the flow?
I'm happy with the way it is now.
Okay.
I don't have any ability to say whether it's a good thing to do or not.
Okay. I still have concerns. Councillor Donaldson, do you have any concerns?
Yeah, I think I understand where you're going. As a person who lives actually on that creek, and the amount of flooding that we have seen in the last couple years ago with the straight rivers through the province, but right here at our back door, literally, and what is potentially going to happen because this development is clear cut at the north end. There was all the trees, all the dirt, and now the rock is being blasted away. So that water's got to go somewhere, and I'm not sure if this pond's going to be big enough, and how fast it's going to flow. So, and where are the bioswales going to be? This is the first I've heard. We've asked about bioswales. We've not seen any plans as to how or what it's going to do, if it's going to slow it down or not. We understand how it works, but I'm not sure how much is in that plan.
Okay.
So yes, quantity of water is significant.
Okay. Councillor Gray.
So I would just comment that some of that is in the covenant that we have, and we didn't have a meeting with Miask about this because it was the summertime and we weren't able to do that, to pull it off. But in Mr. Hurley's report, he's saying things like the volume and the outflow rates weren't commented on, and that's partly because Miask and I don't believe PTASC either have the technical background to comment on it. We really needed to leave it to the professionals.
It was a professional that pointed that out to me. It was a professional engineer that pointed out that what they were measuring the pond going up and down. They weren't measuring the actual quantity. And I think that would be a great thing to point out to Mr. Hurley and get his opinion whether they're using up-to-date best practice management on quantifying the flow.
If I'm happy to support an amendment to that.
We could simply add in in the first paragraph, best management practices in terms of stormwater quantity, and then carry on.
Or a second motion.
Okay.
You don't like that?
I don't, to be honest with you. I feel like this is such a. Sorry, one more time. How would you amend?
I would amend it by that council further engage Colquitt's engineering to seek its advice on best management practices in terms of stormwater quantity and quality and other related aspects specific to the stormwater management system at Centre Mountain Estates.
Okay, I'm happy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I just?
Yep, go ahead.
I'll just offer that Colquitt has looked at that and provided advice on that specifically, and then the proponents have responded and I think met all of his requests. So he may not have more to say on that issue.
But he might have something more to say. I don't know if they've used best up-to-date management practices.
Okay. What I feel like I've seen in reviewing the Colquitt's material, it was all really oriented toward Langford and Langford's perspective. And we are essentially the receiving party. So I think it's maybe worth having a look at. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is a motion amended by Councillor Schumacher, Councillor Donaldson.
I think so the motion came, sorry.
So we had the original motion and then I amended it. Yeah. So let's deal with the amendment. Yeah. I amended it, you seconded it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who seconded it? I'm not sure.
Councillor Donaldson seconded it. Let's deal with the amendment. All in favor of the amendment?
Could we read it out, please?
Yeah. The amendment would be that council further engage Colquitt's engineering to seek its advice on best management practices in terms of stormwater quantity and quality and other related aspects specific to the stormwater management system at Centre Mountain Estates. And then it would carry on to the two other paragraphs. Okay, that's the amendment. Call a question on the amendment. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. So the main motion, the three paragraphs with that amendment in it, moved by Councillor Schumacher, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. More discussion? If not, all in favor?
I just wondered, would it be appropriate to ask our administrator just if she had any comments on the process?
Say that again.
I'm just wondering if, through the chair, if we might ask Ms. Janowski if she had any comments on their process.
Ms. Tarnowski, would you like to comment on the process?
So the process of the motion or the review?
Yeah, providing this to Mr. Hurley for follow-up. Is it making sense in terms of his work, do you think?
Yes.
Thank you. Great.
Okay. With that, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you for that motion. Okay, we've got some reports for information. This is the first one on page 29 is a staff report. On the District of Metchosin Public Communication Report statistics for July and August. This is on page 33 and 35. I will take them both to receive from information. Moved by Councillor Donaldson, seconded by Councillor Schumacher. Anybody have any comments? There was an additional 26 public communications report between July and August. Okay. If not, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Great. And then we have the District of Metchosin Building Inspection reports for July and August on page 37 and 39. Anybody have any comments? If not, I'll take a motion to receive for information. Moved by Councillor Schumacher, second by Councillor Epp. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. And the CRD Bylaw and Animal Care Services report from July 2023 on page 41 and 42. We have a summary here. From anybody have any comments? If not, go ahead.
On the receipt.
Move receipt. By Councillor Gray, second by Councillor Epp. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay. And then we have the correspondence for action on page 47. We have a letter from Evelyn Schumacher, the Vice President of the Juan Fuca Seniors, a request for report. You've all read the letter. I just wanted to ask the question of our finance chair. Do we have any money outside of the budgeting process that we could use for this ask? And it's for a seniors craft, I think it was craft fair or a fair. They wanted a filled basket to auction off. Do we have any money?
When this came in, we'd had some discussion on that, and the conclusion was that not at this time. So I responded to her suggesting that she partake in our grant need, and she responded back by thanking us for that opportunity, and we'll look forward to that in the future. This was specific to replacement of their stroke. They have a big fundraiser coming up. This was adding to that fundraiser. So.
Okay. Okay, so with that, I'll take a motion to receive for information. Moved by Councillor Donaldson, seconded by Councillor Gray. Is that okay? No?
Well, is there a reason why we're not supporting them this time?
Because it's outside of the budgeting process and we don't have anything budgeted for this. We don't have any money left in our grants and aid. We will date up it right to zero. Yep. Okay, so moved by Councillor Donaldson, seconded by Councillor Schumacher. To receive. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, thank you. Moving on to the correspondence for information, we have a letter from Mayor Brenda Locke, the communication regarding the City of Surrey police jurisdiction. We'll take that as a letter for receipt, if that's okay. Moved by Councillor Gray, second by Councillor Donaldson. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. And the two letters I'll take together, one from Ms. Saluk and one from Ms. Sutherland regarding the appreciation for the Volunteer Appreciation Night on page 51 and 53. I'll take them both. Moved by Councillor Gray, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. And then we have a letter from Bert Harrison from the Metchosin Museum Society on page 55, thanking us for our grant and aid. Moved by Councillor Gray, seconded by Councillor Epp. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. And then we have correspondence received regarding 4696 Beckingham Road rezoning. This are letters from Nicole Schumacher, Bev Bacon, Morgan Yates, Joan Rosenberger, Gary Smurfett, Allison Leduc, as well as 3 other letters. Is it 3? No, it's more than 3. Other letters from Robert Chabot, Beth Bacon, Dave Stevens, Matt and Evelyn Loken, Denise Coors, Ryder Bateman, and Tamara Ballard. These were the pinks. So with that, I'll take all of those received for information. And referral later on, moved by Councillor Donaldson, second by Councillor Epp. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Okay, moving to the section 12A on page 83. This is the permissive tax exemption bylaw.
But no, I'd like to recuse myself, please, for received
conflict of interest. Okay.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I just wonder if we could deal with them separately, and then we have the advantage of Councillor Donaldson's viewpoint, and then I would step out when we talk about the Metchosin Hall Society.
Okay. Just let me get to that. Let's deal with them separately. We'll move first to the Victoria Motorcycle Club, okay? And that was the item that Councillor Donaldson said she might have a perceived conflict of interest. Okay, so the discussion, this is the permissive tax exemption bylaws that we allow every year. The recommendation is that council give first, second, and third reading to the Heritage Tax Exemption Bylaw number 688, and that council give first, second, and third reading to the General Tax Exemption Bylaw 2023-689. You've got the background there. There are some discussion points here. There's 5 different organizations from Metchosin that are currently benefiting from the permissive tax exemptions covering 10 separate parcels of land. We'll deal first with the Victoria Motorcycle Club. We had a couple of comments from individual people this evening regarding that. Okay, is everybody at the same place as I am on page 84? Okay.
So Mayor Little, when we go ahead to hearing no concerns and moving along with this, when we go ahead to, we're going to do first and second reading of Bylaw 689 on page 89.
We'll eventually do that, but I want to speak right now to the Victoria Motorcycle Club. Does anybody have any? And actually, yeah, go ahead, Ms. Tarnowski.
So this bylaw is being considered as a whole, so that's all the property, so you're not able to discuss each item because the bylaw is consisting
Okay.
all of the properties.
And so we have 2 councillors that want to recuse themselves, so it will be the 3 of us that actually pass this bylaw?
Okay. So I'll recuse myself.
Okay. Okay, so...
I'd like to speak to the issue when I come back. But
you can't speak to it if you've already... If you
not about
this,
but about the topic.
Okay, well, why don't you sit down and speak to that right now, but not the Hall Society, is what you're saying. Okay.
Well, I wanted to make a motion, but...
Okay. Okay, out to go.
Yeah, when I come back, I will. Okay. The motion's about tax exemptions in general, not about the specifics of any particular group.
Okay. Okay, the 3 of us. Can we discuss the Victoria Motorcycle Club along with everything else? Do you have any concerns, any comments? This has been past practices. These organizations, these 5 organizations have received permissive tax exemptions in the past. I will support this motion. I've looked through this. I do recall hearing from many of these individuals. I think the points that Mr. Domney made, that we are providing a tax exemption for the BC SPCA, and I think that warrants a discussion. Perhaps the councillor in charge of would it be the agriculture of squirrels? Since Councillor Donaldson's out of the room, we'll give her that one. If she could have a conversation with Wild Ark. She's also been on a tour as well of Wild Ark, so we could ask her to have that conversation. Go ahead.
Oh, Mayor Little, I have no concerns with any of the organizations and the permissive tax exemption. I do recall the discussion that the past council had around the motorcycle club, and I'm fine with the direction that the previous council set on this.
Councillor Evelyn.
Just regarding the squirrels, I would like to see letters sent to the SPCA and to the province regarding the issue of squirrels with Wild Ark. Otherwise, I don't have any problem with any of them.
So rather than a conversation, you'd rather a letter sent?
Yes, they can talk about it anyway. I think it's more an environmental thing.
Okay.
But that's something maybe we can bring up later.
Okay. Okay. So with that, I'll call the question on. Is that okay? And then we're going to do first, second, and third reading, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So with the first reading, shall I read it out in full? Okay. That council of the district have been chosen in an open meeting and act the following. The bylaw may be cited as the Heritage Tax Exemption Bylaw 2000. What?
Sorry,
Go ahead.
I just have to ask for a mover and seconder for first reading and the second and third readings.
Okay. I couldn't hear her. So go ahead.
I'm going to move the first reading of Bylaw 688.
I'll second.
Moved by Councillor Epp, seconded by Councillor Schumacher. Did you want to say something, Mr. Nelson?
Yes, bylaw 688 requires 2/3, so that's the heritage one. And then the other bylaw 689 is 3 out of 5 majority is sufficient. So for the heritage bylaw, we will require 4 members.
So we're doing 689? I think, did you say 688 or 6?
So one requires all 3 of us, and one requires 4 of the 5.
Okay, I'll move first reading then of Bylaw 689.
Second.
Okay, call the question. All in favor? Okay, that's first reading.
Move second reading of Bylaw 689.
Moved by Councillor Epp, seconded by Councillor Schumacher. All in favor? Go ahead.
And move the third reading of Bylaw 689.
Second that.
Epp and Schumacher, all in favor? Opposed, carried. Great. Okay, now, so we have a bit of a problem. No, we don't have a bit of a problem. Okay? Perhaps you could explain to us why we don't have a problem.
95 bylaw. If you refer to on page 87, so bylaw 688 is dealing with the heritage tax exemption, and there's only one property, and that's the church. So that's not the land below the church itself, but it's for the land surrounding the church. So this is for heritage, and there's only one property we're dealing with.
That's the Anglican Synod?
That's correct. It's on page 87.
Okay. And so neither Councillor Donaldson nor Councillor Epp or Councillor Gray had conflict with the. Okay.
That's correct.
Okay. So we could ask them both.
Yeah.
Do you have a conflict?
Nope.
Okay. So we'll yeah. Let's get them back up. Okay. So we're just hold your horses there for a sec. We're going to give first, a second, and third reading to the general tax exemption because, sorry? Is that right?
Yeah.
The heritage tax was only to do with the the church, the Anglican Synod, and the rest is for the general tax exemption. We needed more than 3 of us. We needed a 4/5 vote.
Okay.
That's why we brought you both back. Okay, is that okay with everybody? So we're going with the first, second, and third reading of 689.
Evelyn, I would move bylaw 688 for first reading.
Second.
689.
Are we on the right one? 688?
688, we've done
Okay.
689 already.
Okay. This is moved by Councillor Schumacher, seconded by Councillor Epp. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Go ahead.
Mayor Little, I would move second reading of bylaw 688.
Moved by Councillor Schumacher, seconded by Councillor Epp. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Mayor Little, I would move third reading of bylaw 688.
Moved by Councillor Schumacher, seconded by Councillor Epp. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Good. I know it's getting late. Just stay with me for a bit. Go ahead.
I don't think I properly said why I recused myself, but it's because there would have been a conflict of interest that I had remained because I'm a trustee of the Metchosin Community Hall.
Okay.
That was my rationale.
Mhm.
And I wonder, I had a motion to make about the exemptions. In keeping with our strategic planning and experience with the district and the Boys and Girls Club, I would like to move that staff provide council report outlining the property size and zoning of each of the tax exempt properties and the number of years each property has received tax exempt status, with a report for some upcoming meeting of Finance Committee.
And would this be for information or action? What is it that you're getting at? What actionable item would come out of that staff report?
Well, I recall that I mentioned the Boys and Girls Club, but maybe I should see if there's a seconder and I could talk a little bit more.
I second for discussion.
Yeah.
Moved by Councillor Gray, seconded by Councillor Schumacher. Go ahead.
Yeah, my understanding, I wasn't at council, of course, at the time, but the Boys and Girls Club, that they had received tax exempt status for quite a long time and then made a move that I want to choose my words carefully, but
went against the spirit?
Thank you, went against the spirit of the tax exemption. And so then there was actions taken by council to help change the circumstances. So I was thinking it would be wise for us not to have a repeat of that, just to get a look at what is the zoning, are there any issues with any properties here that we might seek further discussion with the owners of the properties to avoid a similar circumstance as what happened with the Boys and Girls Club. No reflection on current ownership or anything like that, but just avoiding problems in the future. So I thought at first it was information only in answer to your question, and then that might lead us to have some discussions with some of the owners depending on what we learned. I don't see any documents how they're currently zoned and anything. I don't know about that, so I just thought it would be useful information.
Okay, does anybody else want to discuss this? No? I'm a little bit reticent to ask the staff to provide a report that we're not going to be able to move on. There's been no indication that any of these other 4 organizations have given us any reason to think that they were going to make a move that is not within the spirit of the community. But if it's really important to you, go ahead.
I was going to say we did have, when we were dealing with the Boys and Girls Club, we did have quite a big discussion on this. And I know speakers from the Motorcycle Club and you know, it was, we did talk about it quite a bit. And I do think that if we are going to discuss it again, that we should do it during budget talks.
Okay. Okay. Just a moment. Ms. Tarnowski?
I was going to suggest that I am aware that we've had previous discussion. If it's just for information, that staff just provide that report that was previously submitted, just for information.
Would that be acceptable?
An awful lot of staff time, except.
Great. I don't know what's in the report, but it just seemed to me that we should have eyes open, see where we're going. And it wasn't so much that I thought we should take action, but rather get the information so we knew whether or not we should take it, whether there was any action to be considered. And as far as I know, the Boys and Girls Club the district wasn't aware that there were going to be any changes, and suddenly it was upon us. So it's just a preventive thinking on my part. So, and I don't disagree with what Councillor Epp is raising, which is if there's action, that would come in perhaps at a different time. But just to get us clear about what's going on. So the earlier report, and then in addition, this information that I'm asking about if it's not in the report. Thank you.
So what you're asking for is an additional report and the earlier report?
No, I was interested in knowing, I thought these would be the things that we might like to know. The property size, the zoning of each, and then how long they've been receiving tax exemption. Perhaps that's all included in the report, and if it wasn't, then just that information on 5 properties, that I don't think it would be a lot of work.
Okay. Everybody's clear then on that motion? Okay. Anybody else wish to speak to it? No? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? All opposed? All opposed. Noted that all opposed. Okay, thank you very much. That motion carries. Okay. Moving on to what everybody's been waiting for, on page 93, we have a report from.
We all fall asleep or
we have a report from our planner to our interim CAO. I'd like to speak first. In the interest of greater public interest, I'm suggesting to Council, I'd like you to consider option 2 on page 97 of the agenda package. In the interest of making evidence-based decisions, I'm really concerned that I don't have all the necessary information to make the informed decision that's required of us tonight. I'm not suggesting that we deny the application. I'm suggesting that we take option 2, that Council requests further information from the applicant or clarification from staff. Specifically, in the interest of greater public interest, we need to do, as Mr. Saluk suggested, our due diligence and obtain the necessary information, because there's new information in the last couple of weeks, specifically the new information on the fish, the cutthroat trout, and what is upstream of that. I'd also like to see some information on the well feasibility study using up-to-date data and accurate groundwater level data. Perhaps we can contract a second hydrologist opinion. I'd like more information on an estimate to bring in piped water, either from the CRD or by a third party with piping built to the CRD standards. And I'd like to know what is the exact number of lots that the developer would be allowed if they went straight to a subdivision, to a no amenity subdivision application. Is that number 14 lots or 18 lots? There's a big difference. When I spoke to the planner last week, she said it's somewhere between 14 and 18, but I'd like to nail that down. And most importantly, for the greater community interest, what are the unintended consequences regarding opening the OCP for review? I think we should seek a legal opinion for this, because that is, as Mr. Sluk and others have mentioned, a watershed moment for us. I'm very, very reluctant to open up the OCP, and I think that would be in the greater community interest. Thus, I have my concerns. Because of the community concerns, because of the greater public interest, because of all the feedback that we've received, I think we need to be very careful in our deliberations and make informed, evidence-based decisions. So with that, I'll ask for comments from the rest of you, and who would like to speak first?
Did you want to second to that?
That would be good.
Yeah, I will second it.
That's moved by Mayor Little, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. Comments?
Sure.
Councillor Schumacher.
Great. Mayor Little, I'm with you on this. I have to say, over the last few weeks, I've had a chance to reflect further on our consideration around the amenity zoning request for 4696 Beckingham. And I've also had numerous conversations with community members. What is clear in that moving ahead with this is we just can't take this lightly, especially with the spot revision that would be required within the OCP. Now, I grant that section 6.8, it does say that it can be modified, and that's the section you'd be amending. under exceptional circumstances. And it's been asked, are we at exceptional circumstances? And you know what? We might be, given the changing pattern of groundwater, the groundwater resource, and the development pressures that we face. But others have pointed out that, if you go in to look at the OCP again and other sections, you'll find this statement. It is essential that the plan be adaptable, the OCP that is, and must not permit piecemeal amendments which disregard the spirit of the original intent. So, again, I think the statements in the OCP beg us, though, to be very careful, and I think that is what you're suggesting. I fully support getting some legal insights into what a spot amendment might mean in terms of other developments. The big question, of course, is water and the number of dwellings, the number of lots, more so the number of lots that could go on this property. Is it 24? Is it 20? Is it something less? And I mean, there have been comments made about 14, 17, 6. I think that information about the prior subdivision would give us some insights into what is possible there. So I'm in favor of seeking more information to that. So again, there is a complicated equation around homes and water, and I believe that we need some more information. So I've got some points in terms of specifics about what we could use, but I'm very happy to support the moving to option 2. So.
Okay. Anybody else wish to? Councillor Donaldson, go ahead.
Those are all really good points. Many I have made notes of as well, including the quote of the OCP at the top of my page here. I stand by that from the last meeting even. We've heard a lot of numbers floating around, whether it's 14, 17, 19, 20, 24. The one thing that I do know, and from being on the Juan Fuca Water Commission, is that when there are developments, it is the developer that pays for the infrastructure to be put in, not the residents of a community to pay for that. And so when we have water issues throughout our community, we have a history of that. This is a serious concern, and we've heard a lot of that in this room. When the Arden Road neighborhood were running into problems at the time, and I've spoken to some of those neighbors as well as to what took place back then. I lived here at the time. We were able to get things like infrastructure grants and such. Now that development already took place, and eventually there were problems with wells. And the neighbors had to pay for it, and it paid back in their taxes, even with the infrastructure grants. Not everybody hooked up, that's a choice. In reading some letters that have come back from the developers just in the past week, still insinuating or suggesting that the residents should pay for it and that it's a benefit to our community. It's a benefit in some ways, yes, but that other residents along Kangaroo Road could also hook up. That's a cost to them. So they're asking for us to grant them an extra 10 lots if it were 14 to 24. And then saying that this is a gift for these other residents that could hook up. There are some very long driveways there that seniors live on. They may not ever afford it. So we need to go back to the OCP, not consider piecemeal, permitting any kind of piecemeal amendments to it. It is a good document. It's our guiding document for this community. We've heard loud and clear from residents. We haven't gotten to the public hearing process, thank goodness, at this point. There are a lot of numbers floating around. I'd like to see some facts. I talked to a realtor as well a month ago, $30,000 uplift per dwelling. 14th of August, $50,000. It's all over the place. We don't know. But developers are in a business to do a business. Our business is this community. And to be accountable to the people that live in this community.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Epp or Councillor Gray, would you wish to speak? Councillor Epp.
Well, I'm willing to go with option 2 with answers to specific questions that we have. But I also I was in support of the development at our last go-round, and my reasons for that haven't really changed too much. Getting a legal opinion on a site-specific amendment to the OCP would be important, because what really concerns me is the provincial initiative for housing, and Metchosin is on their radar for that. And regardless of what we want the OCP to be, the provincial government can just step in and make changes to that. I felt that this subdivision, with whether it's 17 lots, would be potentially 34 families, or what they proposed. There's still going to be a lot of people moving in there, but I feel that the trade-off is that we can kind of come to a Metchosin compromise, and that we can allow still rural properties, rural 2-acre properties, and since I live on one, I still consider ourselves rural. But then we also get our 40 acres of parkland preserved, as well as a lot of environmental covenants that are really important to this community. And I really like the idea of that environmental protection. So, I still, in general, support this development. I'd be happy to see fewer lots, obviously, but I think there's a lot of reasons to look at it and, favorably. But getting the answers to some of these questions would be good.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Gray.
Yeah, in order to assess properly the developer's proposal, I think I agree, conducting our due diligence is best. My interest is the public interest, protection of the watershed and the aquifer, and the lowest reasonable density as recommended by MEASC. At the same time, I want to recognize the developer, what they've put forward to us, as Councillor Epp is just running through, is quite appealing. And so I'm up for getting information and then sorting out where we go from there, not meaning to push the owners away, but rather to say, well, we've got some numbers, let's take a look at them, and let's get our staff back discussing it with them. What I wasn't sure about was just the specifics in your motion. So I'm thinking about the pipe water estimate itself, which you mentioned, the water drilling and related costs, just confirming those, the savings from clustering lots, and the increased lot price, which Councillor Donaldson just mentioned with pipe water, and then the what in one correspondence says the higher sales absorption rate, described otherwise as how quickly you sell. There's value in that. And then the precise lot size, like if there's a survey, it would be great to get the survey just to be sure what we're dealing with there. So thank you for the motion.
Okay, so if we could articulate very clearly, we are asking for that, I'm recommending that council request further information from the applicant for clarification from staff. What I was recommending was any new information on the fish, the cutthroat trout, not only is it in its area of the lake, but upstream in the watershed of that pond lake. I was asking for a feasibility study using up-to-date and accurate groundwater level data, perhaps a second hydrologist opinion, more information on an estimate to bring in piped water, either by the CRD or by a third party with piping built to CRD standards. What is the exact number of lots the developer would be allowed if they went straight to a no amenity subdivision application? Is that number 14, 18? What is that number? In terms, most importantly, I said that for the greater community interest, what are the unintended consequences regarding opening the OCP for review? Can we get a legal opinion for that? There was two others that you added. That was for the
drilling and related costs. Sorry, the water drilling and related costs.
Drilling and related costs. And you would like to probably compare those to the cost of the piped-in water.
Mhm.
And then the other item
The increased
was
lot prices with pipe water that Council Donaldson has mentioned.
increased
Lot prices.
lot prices. And that would, of course, be pure speculation based on past data.
Well, we have a number from the proponent of 750, so they've got that from someone, they've got experts who've given them that. So it'd just be a similar checking that. But somebody that we engaged to do that for us. What was mentioned, a higher sales absorption rate. Again, that's a estimate, I guess I'd say, rather than speculation, but I take your point, it's difficult work. And then the savings from clustered lots. And if there's a survey available, it'd be great to see that.
Survey. Okay. I've got all those down. Is everybody, go
I'm
ahead.
just going to give the items that I thought off the top of my head in terms of more information. I would say a verification of the cost estimate in bringing pipe-in water to the subdivision. We see we have one from LIDA, but I think it should be verified and validated by a third party. Evaluation comparison of pipe lots with pipe water versus well water. I think that's already covered in some of the things you mentioned. That, and also including value uplift around fire protection. I think you may have already covered some of them, so yeah. The way I would phrase the question about the OCP amendment, is ask external legal counsel what are the implications in terms of future development proposals if we were to do the spot zoning.
Okay.
And then background on the prior subdivision application, which could be a staff report on what they've previously seen. So,
okay.
Yeah, those are.
Okay, great. Anybody else have any other comments? I don't think what we're asking for is complex. I think it can be reasonably attained in short order. But I really thank Council for taking that pause, because we really need to make evidence-based decision-making for the greater public interest. Okay, I'm going to call that question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. So that was unanimous. Okay, great. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Now, moving right along. So we've got in other business the ratification of the staff report. This is the agricultural plan request for proposal, the RFP award for the contract. The option one was that council award the RFP for the agricultural plan to the Uplands Agricultural Consulting Limited and direct staff to enter into the contract with a successful proponent in the amount of $39,840, excluding GST. Okay, so motion by Councillor Schumacher, second by Councillor Donaldson. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. And secondly, the staff report, the request for a development variance at 1050 Matheson Lake Road. The option 3 was recommended from committee that council deny the application for development variance permit 2304 prior to soliciting input from the surrounding residents. Okay, moved by Councillor Donaldson, seconded by Councillor F. Discussion, all in favor, opposed, carried. Thank you. And I think that is it. We won't have question period this evening because this goes beyond 9:30. And with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Schumacher, second by Councillor Donaldson. All in favor, opposed, carried. Thank you very much, everybody.